The great quarterbacks, the great players are overcomers. And for most of Brady's life, he made the most of average running backs outside of, Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, average tight ends, and very average wide receivers. He can't do that anymore. He is no longer able to overcome an average offensive line and an average defensive head coach. He can't. It's why the San Francisco 49ers, who bludgeoned him yesterday, are so darn appealing. It'd be an easy lift. Burrow, Allen, Mahomes overcome injuries, overcome deficits, overcome no run game. Josh Allen just makes stuff happen. Aaron Rodgers and Brady, more Tom than Aaron, no longer can just overcome. And in fact, they often look really, really bad if they don't have everything in place or a lot of support. Brady never had great weapons in New England. It's a myth. The Moss years were quick, but he elevated everybody. Those days are over. He misses throws in the end zone that are easy touchdowns. He can't elevate people if he faces pressure. Have you noticed Brady is best now late in games often when they go into a prevent defense? Yeah, Tim Tebow crushed it then. Andy Dalton can roll then. Everybody in the league can complete passes. This is not a shot at Baker Mayfield. He looked great on the last drive of the game. People are in prevent. They're trying to not give up a big play. It's a little bit easier. So from this point forward, Tom needs to rely on others, which feels a little unbecoming for a GOAT. He's moving into the go down to Florida when you become a seniors phase, little easier life. That's what Tom's becoming. A goat to a snowbird. He needs to move somewhere where it's a little easier lift. He can still put in the hours, but the escapability, what he had, is down. It's just not there anymore. He's no longer an overcomer. That doesn't mean, by the way, smart players, all these sports. Steph Curry figured it out when he was still at the end of his prime. I'm going to bring KD in. I don't have to drop 38 a night. Steph Curry's figured it out. Jordan Poole, take your shots, young man. Score 20. I don't want to do all the heavy lifting. A lot of athletes, they want to be the star. I think Tom gets it. This is maybe a bridge or a transition year where he's lost his fastball clearly and doesn't have support. Next year, he could look much better. But he has moved out of the overcoming stage. Aaron Rodgers has as well, but he's got a little bit more in the tank. Here's Tom after. I love Tom, but there are stages for all athletes, and he's moved into a different one. That's why the Niners, again, are so appealing to him going forward. I was watching that Niners game, and, Fox cut away from it. It was so bad. How often do you cut away from a Brady game? But usually when you go to your backup quarterback, like Mahomes to Chad Henne, you take plays out of the playbook. Herbert to Chase Daniel, you take plays out of the playbook. Garoppolo gets hurt. Brock Purdy comes in. They didn't take anything out of the playbook. It's the same playbook with more mobility. It was 16 to 21, 180 yards. That's Garoppolo's line. Couple of touchdowns, no picks. He's Garoppolo with better mobility. Even the play calling was the same stuff. In fact, there were 2 throws up the sideline. I don't think they've asked Jimmy to make those. So San Francisco did not change gears here. It's the same gear. The 5th tire in the trunk wasn't a spare. It was the same size tire. And maybe San Francisco's known this all along. This is not a spare tire. They had a full-size 5th tire in the trunk. When I watch the Niners, I see no change at all from Kyle Shanahan to the play calling. So after a couple of games, one start and a couple of games, the numbers to me, we look at them this morning, look a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo. And, I also think there's this, is that Kyle Shanahan, this is crazy, is on his 3rd quarterback. Because they wanted to start Trey Lance, right? That's why they gave up picks. That's why they wouldn't give Jimmy Garoppolo a playbook in the offseason. They wanted to start Trey Lance. Gets hurt. Remember, he started the season. Okay, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Gets hurt. And I do wonder that if Kyle Shanahan's sitting there thinking, listen, I'm going to let it go a little bit. I'm down to my 3rd quarterback. It's all, we're playing with house money. I'm on a third quarterback because when they were leading 21-0 before half with Garoppolo, you would just sit down, run it, and get to the locker room. And then Brock Purdy throws a pick. He gets a little bit of an officiating break. They get it back, and they still throw it down the field to Brandon Ayuk. And it's like, I don't know, that's more aggressive than they would have been with Jimmy Garoppolo. So Christian McCaffrey after the game, and the kid is loved in the locker room. You're hearing Trent Williams. You're hearing Fred Warner. You're hearing Kittle. They're all like, we love him. He's barking at guys. Now, obviously, the Deebo Samuel injury is gutting. It's an ankle, could be a high ankle. We don't know. And McCaffrey's had injury issues, and Deebo's hurt again, and George Kittle has. This is a very, very physical team. But I was talking to a Niner fan yesterday, and he said, I watched him in the preseason. He goes, my takeaway was, he's kind of a gamer. And by the way, nobody thought Garoppolo. I love Garoppolo. I'm a Garoppolo fan. But they don't even throw the ball up the sideline with him. They throw the ball in the middle of the field. He's a distributor. He's way Chris Paul over Steph Curry. You don't get 35-point nights from Chris Paul much anymore. But I watch Brock Purdy, and I always feel that you can tell what a coach thinks about a quarterback by the plays he's willing to call. And in 2 games, I said this last week, he's completing 71% of his throws, 105 passer rating. He started, and here's the thing I like about Brock Purdy. He started in a Power 5 conference, but did not have elite players mostly around him. If you look at the history of the NFL, I wrote about this years and years ago in my first book, is that if you look at the quarterbacks that make it in this league, it's not USC guys, it's not Texas guys. Until recently, it's not Alabama guys, it's not Ohio State guys. There was a time in this league when there was 3 quarterbacks from Cal and 3 from North Carolina State. It is quarterbacks who in college have to overcome. They don't play with pro wide receivers. They get very used to throwing into smaller windows. If you're Matt Leinart at USC, everybody was open. Everybody was in the box trying to get Reggie Bush and Lendale White. So your receivers get single coverage. That's not a real world. Big Ben didn't go to Ohio State. He went to Miami of Ohio. Aaron Rodgers didn't go to USC. He went to a junior college, then Cal. Russell Wilson, North Carolina State. Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not exactly LSU when it comes to, wide receivers. And so Brock Purdy went to Iowa State. He had Breece Hall, but they didn't have Texas athletes. They didn't have Oklahoma athletes. I'd argue they don't even have TCU athletes most of the time. So he had to overcome, throw in smaller windows. Offensive linemen weren't first-round NFL draft picks. He really is. Now, he's not, you'd like him to be a little bigger and a little bigger arm. But if you look at in the last 20, 25 years, is outside of Peyton Manning, who was a number 1 high school quarterback, number 1 college quarterback, taken number 1. Most of the time, you're drafted Montana in the 3rd round, Brady in the 6th. You played a non-traditional power. And this kid's got some sauce. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.